I bought my house in August of 2000. At the time, I lived in a small 1,200 square foot house with four teeny rooms and a minuscule bathroom. I loved it. I went out for a run and ran by the house I'm sitting in right now. And when I came back at the end of my run, there was a for sale sign in front. And I went and got Kenny, and we made an appointment and came to see it and made an offer. It all happened really fast. I was just pregnant with Gracie at the time, planning my wedding. And when we moved in here, we basically lived in three rooms: the kitchen, the bedroom upstairs that we slept in, and the living room, and the bathroom, of course. The other five rooms sat empty, full of boxes, relatively unused. We set up a guest room. We put my computer in the front room. It was interesting. Took us a long time to fill the house. If I sound echoey and my background, if you're watching, looks vague or blank, I'm sitting in my office. The first use of this room when we bought the house in 2000. It has been a playroom. It has been a second living room, a living room for Kenny and I to sit in while the girls used the other living room as their playroom. I have had people crash here. Our house is a classic New Englander with room behind room behind room, a long row of rooms. So we're emptying it. I haven't touched some of the things in this room since 2011. That's when I lost my job and my life had a big shift. And I needed a home office, and this became my office. And it remained such until Molly died. And then it became a number of things. It was a messy storage room for a while. Then we made it a second living room. Gracie and I slept on the floor in the other one. We had birds, and so the birds lived in here. And then it's my office again. And then it's a storage room again. It's amazing how 2 3-minute episodes back to back can evoke so much thought and ponderance in my life, with two major themes, one being I didn't know what to do, and the other being who am I and why am I here? Both of those sentences describe my life right now in a myriad of ways. In my taking care of my friend David, I witnessed from outside the circle the dynamics of a family, struggling to maintain consistency, to decide who's in charge, to feel resentful of one another to a certain extent, and to somehow navigate the shift that comes as life goes along. It's been very helpful in my navigation of having my mother here. I've said many times my mother is not difficult. She's polite and kind, and she asks before she does anything, and she shares. She's an easy person to have in the house, but she's my mother. And the mother-daughter dynamic is tricky even at best. So this room will take on a new role. It will be her room. It took me a long time to get to this point. We don't really live in a house that affords anyone privacy. It's not set up that way. It's a family house. There's no little separate wing that can be an in-law apartment. You know, it's not set up for anyone to have a corner of it to themselves. But this will give my mom a spot that she can have. I have canceled coaching. I have put work aside. I have stopped many of the things that keep me sane. My workout schedule has disappeared to get this room emptied so that it can be filled with her stuff so that I can set myself up upstairs. I'm at a shift. Everything that I look at looks the same, but nothing's the same. As you listen to this, it will be a week after Molly's birthday. If you follow me on the socials, you've seen me all over the place then, because that's what this is like. 10 years. Molly would be turning 23. I have a hard time thinking about that sometimes. I get equal responses of, it's been that long, or that's all it's been. I know that for the most part, the hundreds of people that were connected to Molly 10 years ago probably rarely think about her now. It's logical. It makes sense. They've grown up. They're not in seventh grade anymore, or sixth grade, or eighth grade. They're in college or out of college. They're living their lives. They're married. They're having babies. Seventh grade seems a lifetime ago to them. But for Gracie and Kenny and I, it's a decade of time, a significant number. It's beginning to turn a corner. Less about Molly, more about the Molly B Foundation, less about the details of Molly, more about what is her legacy. And then I have to empty a room and I find things. Scraps of paper, coloring books, fourth grade math workbooks, pictures, journals, pencil boxes, little ceramic statues, bracelets. In A Course in Miracles, we're taught that things have no meaning. The meaning lies in what we think about the things. Recently received a message from a mom who just lost her baby, her 3-year-old. Tragic in-home accident. She's a mess, logically. And she's asked me, what did I do with Molly's things? She's 6 weeks out and already worried about what to do with his things, of course. I'm 10 years out, and Molly's dance costumes hang right behind the door that you can see behind me if you're watching. On the railing in the front hall, where she and Gracie hung their costumes 10 years ago come April. She put them there. I don't want them to move. It's 10 years. They've probably disintegrated in the bag. Gracie put hers away a bit ago, but we left Molly's where they hang. The wall in her bedroom still has all of her nail polishes on the wooden rack that we painted together pink and purple. The pictures that she put up in her bulletin board remain just where she put them. Other things have come down, but those haven't yet. Gracie and I were going to take them down before she went to Paris, and it just didn't happen. And so they stay. So what do I tell that mother? Yes, your apartment that you live in looks just like it always looked, except maybe slightly to the left. Nothing is the same. Everything is different, and yet it all looks just as it did. I told her to leave them be. If she wasn't ready to move them or touch them, to just leave them be. There was no rush. As time goes along, certain things become easier or become necessary. I didn't know what to do. So much of my life leading up to Molly's death and in the weeks and months after her death resonate those feelings with me. I didn't know what to do. You stand sort of dumbfounded in the reality that nothing will ever be the same. Oftentimes when I'm telling funny stories about my past, I talk about waking up after a night of partying and not knowing where I am. A CrossFit coach friend of mine in Massachusetts and I were regaling one another with morning after stories. I started in Boston and ended up in New York City, so I won the contest. She traveled the state line as well, but it was closer than she'd have to get on a plane. In those first moments when you wake up and you don't quite know where you are yet, you don't know what reality is yet, you lie there sort of still and unfocused. And then the feelings rush in, either excitement because something good is happening, oh yay, it's Christmas Eve, or dread, oh God, Molly died. As your thoughts crystallize and become more concrete, all the memories rush in. These past 18 months have been difficult for me. I have found it very difficult to put myself first. People constantly expect me to do things, and in the self-fulfilling prophecy that is me, I do them with an air of anger and resentment, even though I've made the choice to not work out to help the person. The tricky part with family is there's an expectation that you'll do it. And I think that's what's hard about my mom living here. I'm surrounded by people that nod at me with these tender looks on their faces. I know, Barbara, you do so much for everyone else. And then they have no trouble asking me to do 50 things for them, like somehow they're different. But I'm the one making the choice, right? I'm the one making the choice. As you listen to this, it's April 7th, and I'm 7 days into 100 burpees a day. A burpee for every day Molly was alive in a physical form. So from the day of conception, July 11th, 2002, to her day of death, May 7th, 2016. It'll take me until about late May to get them all, to get a burpee for every day that she lived completed. Hopefully, as you're listening to this, I've gotten a better handle on my schedule and my diet and my exercise, but my life is at a shifting point. I have to make decisions, and then I have to gratefully live with the decisions. So there'll be a podcast shift. I started off with this season over a year ago, being called Spilling the Tea, and I had all sorts of things I was going to tell. Maybe I started in the fall with this, and it felt whiny and snarky. I still have things to tell, but I don't think categorizing a podcast season as Dirty Dark Secrets makes the most sense. I have an episode with Gracie coming up. I have an episode with my neighbor Jen, who just wrote a book, coming up. I'm going to talk to my newly found niece in the weeks to come. I enjoy the guests, and I think it's good for me to have some guests back and have some levity. But although the last 2 episodes have been just 3 minutes long, they've opened up a world of questions for me. What do I do? Where do I go? Who am I and why am I here? So April 7th, 2026. 10 years ago, Molly was heading into show week for Bye Bye Birdie. I was chaotically working at private school and going back and forth with Roy about whether or not to go to Amsterdam. So many chaotic decisions in such a short period of time. And the doctor's appointments and the puking. I don't know what to do. And I don't really know who I am or why I'm here. So the next several weeks will hopefully be a gateway into answers to those questions. If you're grieving the loss of somebody, understand and acknowledge the passage of time and that it doesn't always make sense. And what seems like a logical step on one day might seem ridiculous on another. There's some shows you should watch on Netflix and Paramount. The Best You Can, it's a movie that was made in 2025. It deals with somebody dying of dementia and Alzheimer's. It's fantastic. The Fundamentals of Caring, that was made in 2016 about a young man in a wheelchair and his caretaker. Both of those movies will resonate with anyone that's dealing with a parent moving in, lost a child or a spouse, a sudden shift in reality, looking at someone you know and seeing a stranger. What a great metaphor for so much of life. I also watched a limited series on Paramount called The Madison. 6 episodes, fantastic. Again, about a family dealing with death and trauma. I rewatched an episode on public access TV here in Concord with Virginia McGregor, who ghost wrote my book, Motherland. And the man that hosted the show, Paul Brogan, has since died. I was watching it in the interview, and he asked such good questions. And I talked about what a shift in reality losing a child was. And I talked about the reestablishment of a routine and friends and realities. I talked about learning so much about Molly that I thought I knew and didn't. In a week's time, we'll be heading off to France to see Gracie B. I will be sure to do a podcast from there, and a bunch of lives anyway. I'm wandering, directionless perhaps, but not aimlessly. And I continue to ask myself, what do I do? Who am I? And why am I here? So it's my last day recording a podcast episode in this room for what will likely be a long, long time. Goodbye, front room. It'll be someone else's for a while. Be good to yourself. Look around. See where your shifts are. Ask yourself the questions. Be good to someone else. Not too good, though. Honor your boundaries. And as always, have a good day, everybody. Hey, thanks for listening and supporting the podcast. Feel free to leave a review and share my stories with your friends. Please reach out with your own stories, as I love connecting with my listeners. If you would like to get to know Molly, head over to mollybfoundation.org to see what she is all about. If you want to see what I'm up to next, you can find me on Instagram at Barb_444, on Facebook as Barb Higgins, and at my website, 1000tinysteps.com. And while you're there, sign up for my newsletter, a weekly way to find out what's up in the life of Barb Higgins.